Hiya, two children, it's Mr Yeardsley. In school today, I'm going to read the rest, I think, of the Hodgeheg. Do you remember Max had a couple of bangs on the head? He was speaking normally again now, wasn't he? And he found a third place where you could cross the road, where there was a human stopping the traffic and children walking over at the same time. You had a little thought about what that might be? Should we find out? Because Max was going to investigate, wasn't he? Chapter 8. Max could hardly wait for the next dawn. Something inside him said that today he would at last be successful in his quest. And outside him, every one of his 5,000 spines tingled with excitement. The more he thought of his conversation with Uncle B, the more he felt convinced that the answer to the problem lay with the small humans. Their crossing place must be the safest. Follow them, and he would find it. He waited until the family were fast asleep, and then, blinking in the unaccustomed sunlight, he went along the path by the side of the wall of number 5A to the front gate. He did not go under it, but waited, watching beneath it. Already he'd learned that you could tell the age of humans for the size of their feet, and he settled himself to wait patiently until a pair of small ones should come past. When at last they did, he was about to go out and follow, but then another pair went by, and then several pairs, and then, as the pavement filled up with school-going children, dozens and dozens of small feet went walking, dancing, skipping, hopping past his gate. There he is. There's the feet. All of them were going in the same direction, to his left, up the road, which would take them, he knew, to the end of the row of houses and past the factory to the red man and the green man. Was that, after all, where all small humans crossed? He must follow. He must know for sure. At last, when it seemed to him that no more feet were coming, Max crept under his gate and set out. Some way ahead he could see the tail of the procession, and he hurried after it. He'd passed the last of the houses and reached the factory entrance when he saw that the crowd were taking no notice of the changing red and green men. They were going to a spot further on, and they were crossing over the road. He ran on, under the notice max speed 5 mph, and he wasn't far short of it, until he was close enough to see exactly what was going on. And oh, what a scene it was. Oh, what a scene it was, he told the family and Uncle B that evening. There was this great big human. It was a female, I could tell by the voice. And she was dressed in a long white coat, and she had a black cap with a peak on, and she carried a long pole, and on top of the pole was a big white round stick with an orange rim and black marks on it, a magic wand. It must have been, because she walked out into the middle of the street and held it up, and all the traffic stopped dead. He paused for breath. Then what? I said, Pa. Then all the small humans went across, and the great big female just stood there until the very last one reached the other side safely. School crossing. And that time, everything stood absolutely still. Buses, lorries, cars, motorbikes, not one of them dared move an inch for fear of the great female and her magic wand. Where did the small humans go? Asked Uncle B. Into a huge building, said Max, and I hid myself and watched all day, and at the end of the afternoon they all came out of the building again, and there was the great female waiting for them in her white coat and a black hat, and she waved her wand again, and she saw them all safely back across. I tell you, it's the ideal place for us. The huge building's right next to the park. Nothing would ever dare touch us if we were under the protection of that great, powerful human. There they are, all talking about it. But I don't want to spend the daytime in the park, said Pa. Setting out in the morning and coming back in the afternoon, that's no good for me. I need a good day's sleep. You could still get that old hog, said Uncle B. You could go over in the morning, find a nice place to lie up under the bandstand, let's say, get your 8 hours, have a good night's hunting and come back the following morning. Do it once a week, perhaps. You could take your wife and the girls. It'd make a nice outing. Oh, please, Pa, please, please, cried Peony, Pansy and Petunia. Pa considered this. One of us ought to try it first, see if it works, he said. And if anyone's going, it's me. Not without me, said Ma stoutly. Why not let me go, said Uncle B. After all, I've had a good long life, and if anything goes wrong, there'll be no one to miss me. Oh, yes, there will, said the family. Look, said Max, you don't know which way to go, how to get there, where exactly it is. None of you can go without me. Well then, said Ma, why don't we all go? Chapter 9. Very early the following morning, 7 spiny shapes emerged from under the front gates of number 5A and 5B. They set off up the road, passing garden after garden, from many of which, like 9B, a hedgehog had set out on a journey to the park, never to return. If only they could succeed today. Henceforth, the street would be forever safe for all hedgehog kind. They passed the factory and the automatic crossing with its little red and green men, and came at last to the spot where Max had seen the great female with a magic wand. Opposite them across the street, the school clock showed 6. The hedgehogs concealed themselves in a doorway and settled down to wait. There they are, waiting. At 8:15, the lollipop lady arrived. Even the earliest children never appeared before past, but she liked to get in for good time. She stood, stamping her large feet, for it was a crisp morning. She smoothed down her long white coat, she settled her black cap firmly, then, grasping her staff of office, its circular disc bearing the words, "Caution, children crossing," she stood at attention at the curbside, ready for the first comers, while the early rush hour traffic roared past. Never, for the rest of her life, did the lollipop lady forget the sight that now met her eyes. Coming along the pavement towards her were 7 hedgehogs in single file. "Surely you're not going to school?" There we are. Said the lollipop lady when they reached her. The noise she made meant nothing to Max, but he advanced to the edge of the curb, his nose pointing eagerly across the street. The others lined up behind him. "We wish to go to the park," he said. "Kindly stop the traffic." The noise he made meant nothing to the lollipop lady, but his intention was as clear as the day. Raising her magic wand on high, the great female strode into the middle of the street, and at the sight of her, the traffic meekly stopped. There we go. Then, before the astonished eyes of those fortunate enough to witness this historic occasion, there walked across the street a slow, solemn, dignified procession of hedgehogs. At the rear was Uncle B, shepherding before him Peony, Pansy and Petunia. In front of them was Ma, in front of her was Pa, but at the head of the file there marched that pioneer of road safety, Victor Maximilian St. George, a name to be remembered forever by hedgehogs the world over. "Tell us the story of the first crossing, Mummy," little hedgehogs would plead at bedtime, and then they'd listen, enthralled, to the tale of Max the hedgehog, who became a Hodgeheg, who became a hero. Always the mothers ended with the same words, and they all crossed happily ever after. I've really enjoyed reading that book to you, Year 2. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. I've been thinking about what book to read next. Hopefully it'll be delivered this morning. I've taken a bit of advice from somebody in Year 2. One of the children recommended something on Twitter I thought I might give a go. Thank you so much for everything you've sent in for our VE Day Assembly tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely super. Lots to look at. A feast for the eyes, I hope. In the meantime, guys, remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. Keep smiling.